Hi there and welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth. My name's Anna Pirelli. The comments that you see here are my views, beliefs, opinions, and sometimes they are not even my fully formed views, beliefs, and opinions. However, they are my understandings. Please do retain an open mind and reflect on any of the content and your comfort levels. If your views differ, please feel free to leave a comment. Also remember, it is possible to disagree in respectful ways. My way is not necessarily your way and vice versa. You might also find that some of the content on this playlist in regard to spiritual or universal laws, it resonates with you, meaning it feels right to you, while other laws may not feel right or they may not feel comfortable. If this is the case, the information is either not right for you or it is not right for you right now, and it might never be right for you at any given time. It really doesn't matter. As an earthy and practical person, I can put my hand up with all honesty and say that I have at different times had the same feelings about some of the content in here. And with some of them, I still have a level of skepticism within my viewpoints, but I choose to retain an open mind about the things that I don't fully understand for a few reasons. Firstly, because I believe it would be supreme arrogance to think that we all know all of the answers while we have a body. And because what is right for one of us is not necessarily right or suitable for all of us, and I choose to respect the differences. Please do leave your opinions, beliefs. Feel free to argue the points in a respectful way with any of the content on the slides and even my interpretations. And if you feel that you can add clarity around some of the content, we would all love to see it. Thank you. For now, though, let's explore the laws.
All creation is governed by law. The principles that operate in the outer universe, discoverable by scientists, are called natural laws. But there are subtler laws that rule the hidden spiritual planes and the inner realm of consciousness. Contained within these laws, or conditions, is the true nature of matter. Knowledge of these laws has an effect upon the mental urges. Mind is the builder. Stay in full mindfulness of the application of universal law as related to self and to others, and know that in love all life is given. In love all things move. In giving one attains. In giving one acquires. In giving, love becomes the fulfillment of desire, guided and directed in the ways that bring the more perfect knowledge of self as related to the universal, all-powerful, all-guiding, all-divine influence in life. Love is life. When we go back, merge with the God source, in some infinitesimal but profound way, we expand the mind of God. Our higher self always points the best and most perfect way, and it is ours to listen and choose or reject what we hear. It does not blame, but patiently tries again to show the perfect way, the loving way. All of creation pushes forth. We are ever becoming. Identity ever remains. Universal Law number 13. The Law of Consciousness. The law of consciousness states that as consciousness expands, the space for events increases, and therefore the dimensions in which man cognizes good and evil, opportunity and possibilities, past, present, future enlarge to reveal the outstanding needs in this present world cycle.
So today we're going to be talking about the law of consciousness. As usual, it's a one-sided conversation. That's hardly a discussion. I'm doing the best I can under the circumstances. I wish I could do lives. Anyway, I guess the first thing that we can unpack here is what is the actual meaning of consciousness. Now, my understanding based on my psychological studies is that consciousness is around the concepts that we have a conscious and subconscious, and this comes from the teachings of Carl Jung. Now, if I've mispronounced his name, sorry, just deal with it. You know what I'm talking about. And he was, of course, of the belief that all of us were only operating on a certain aspect of our potential because we only knew a certain amount. Now, his theory has been further adapted to one of the iceberg theory here, and this is one that I was taught when I was at uni, and we see it everywhere anyway, but we really unpacked it at uni, and I'm not going to go into it here, it's too long. But either way, getting back to it, Jung proposed that most of us are living and walking motivated by our subconscious desires, and that the aim or purpose of life from his perspective was to bring the subconscious to conscious awareness so that we can process it. And through this process of processing, we're able to empower ourselves and make healthier decisions for ourselves. And this is because when we're acting from our subconscious, we quite often tend to be irrational and reactive. And this is identified through our behaviours, and where we don't necessarily make a choice, we're just acting out and reacting to the events that occur around us. And often people don't even understand or know why they are reacting the way they do to certain things, or what the triggers are, until they actually dig a bit deeper into their subconscious and bring it to the surface. I mean, he also had the theory of the shadow, but let's not talk about that today. Let's move on with this, right? The iceberg theory actually was studies, I believe, I'm open to correction, that people are only tapping into the smallest aspect of their own personal wealth of knowledge. And it presents that wisdom lies, the bulk of our wisdom, I shouldn't say just the wisdom, the bulk of our wisdom lies untapped and beneath the surface in the subconscious. So within the definition of consciousness, I believe it's safe to infer that we're talking about the capacity of an individual to access the wisdom that lies within us, and that as our awareness grows, you would visualize that waterline of the iceberg going further down. You'd have more of the person's potential that's exposed above the surface line, and they would be making healthier choices. They'd have a greater understanding of what motivates them, and a greater awareness not only of their own inner workings, but why people around them act the way they do and do the things that they do. And in this process, this is an entire empowerment process, because we can work with what we know, right? You will know that if you actually speak to yourself. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, I can cope with what I know, it's what I don't know I don't cope with. So this increases the personal knowledge pool, personal choices, and hopefully for all of us enhances the life experience. So let's go back to, what does consciousness means? It means awareness and knowledge. That's my take on it. Interested to hear what you've got to say, of course. So this slide is going to be a bit longer than the other ones, or the other slide that I just recorded. And this is because we're going to be sinking our teeth into that statement, what is good and what is evil. Okay, so the law states that as our consciousness expands, we're able to cognize good and evil. So to unpack this sentence, we've got to first understand, what does cognize mean? And it means to become aware of, or to know. So we're saying know the difference between good and evil. But then that leads to the next question. What are the words of good and evil? What does that mean? Because they mean different things to different people depending on their cultural influences, and also their religious and spiritual faith and values. That's their personal values. I think we can safely assume that the meaning of the word evil is the polar opposite of good, because we live in a world full of polarities and the yin yang. But when we usually see the word evil, this is where there become the differences from my perspective. Some religions will associate evil, and I'm talking obviously about the Christian religion here, with supernatural forces of the underworld. It could be the hellish concepts of flames and brimstone. I'm just going to make the point here that I find that concept with respect to Christians a little difficult to swallow, okay? And this is because I actually believe that, and I believe the evidence is there to support what I'm saying, that whether a person believes that Christ was the Son of God or not, or that he was God, the reality is, and as I say, the evidence shows, that Christ was a practicing Jew up until his crucifixion. So, and also evidence suggests he did live. There's no disputing. I don't think any of the religions today dispute that Christ actually lived. What they dispute is, was he God, or the Son of God, or the product of a virgin birth? I believe that's what they argue about. So let's go back to what is evil. The reason I have a problem with that particular one is I consider that Christ, as a practicing Jew, would not have believed in the concept of hell with the brimstone, okay? And I also understand that Jews don't believe in fallen angels or concepts of what the Christians call the devil or Lucifer or whatever. So I struggle with that one a little bit. I'm interested to hear what you've got to say. So where does that leave us in understanding evil if we're people that are not Christians or not practicing Christians, or don't go back to the, what do they call that? The second Bible, the New Testament, if they don't live their spirituality from the New Testament? That's what we're going to be discussing here. Before we talk about what evil might mean, I think we need to speak to what does good mean, right? And I think good speaks for itself. I think when we talk about something as being good, we're talking about love and kindness, helpfulness, compassion, care, regard and respect for all people, regardless of their religious persuasions or whatever. And then there's that saying that they have a regard for all sentient beings. So, as I said, in a world that's full of polarities, then evil must be the polar opposite, which I would assume to be behaviours by people that are unhelpful, that are uncaring, that show disregard and disrespect for other people, that are perhaps disrespectful, unkind. What would that be? Cruel to animals, cruel to people and our environment, and basically a complete lack of compassion and empathy towards others. So if I want to nut that down, which I have, you may think differently, of course, I see evil as defined by selfish and self-absorbed behaviours that have a complete lack of accountability and carry no responsibility towards others. So in essence, my interpretation of good and evil is that good is love and kindness, has faith that peace and harmony will prevail, and draws upon the energy of divine love and extends compassion to others. In some ways, I would say that, as much... in some ways, I'm just going to be out there. I don't have an issue with the 10 Commandments. I actually think that if we all adhered to the 10 Commandments, which are, in my interpretation, probably more words of guidance and wisdom than an actual expectation, then I think life might be a lot more pleasant for everybody. But, that might be a topic we can discuss later on and take a look at them and go, well, how do we feel about that? What do we think that implies? So then as we talk about consciousness in regard to good and evil, and the past, present and future. Okay, let me think on this for a sec. Okay, so the law states that as we increase our consciousness and we develop that understanding of what good and evil is for us, because remember, this is an individual pathway, we all have our own paths to walk, then the past, present and future reveal themselves to us in our conscious state so that we're better able to meet our needs in our present life within the current cycle here on Earth. We're going to be talking about cycles later. Sometimes, in my experience, a person will benefit from having a past life review, and this can be to understand the irrational phobias and fears so that they can release them and move on. And by that, the first example that I have that comes to my mind is a friend many years ago contacted me to say that she had worked out, because I sent her a past life review, to say that she had established that in one of her past lives she'd actually fallen from the mast of a sail, which explained her irrational fear of heights, because she died apparently in that vision. That's what she told me anyway. Sometimes, of course, we can use this rationale to go back and address some of our childhood issues without me going too far into it. If there are things that have happened to us in our childhood or our previous lives that are holding us back in our current life from living our full potential, we can actually address those issues by expanding our knowledge and understanding. So anyway, once again, I'm going to close off. I'm going to leave this with you to chew upon and hopefully make a comment. If you don't agree, look, that's fine. We all have different journeys. I'm open to hearing different viewpoints. If you do really passionately disagree, because I realise I've touched on some very sensitive subjects in this one, then please at least be mindful and considerate and respectful that we all have a separate path, okay? So once again, thank you for being part of my journey. Have a beautiful day. May the light shine upon you. Take care. Bye-bye.